Villains. They're the lifeblood of many a great story, and the driving force that tests the heroes, and the shadows that looms over their every step, from tyrannical warlords to cunning masterminds, and even the occasional misunderstood outcast. Villains are as diverse as they are impactful. But here's the thing. Creating a truly memorable villain for your Dungeons & Dragons or TTRPG campaign can get messy. Whether they're a complex, morally gray character you love to hate, or a cackling maniac bent on destruction, your villain can be the spark that ignites unforgettable adventures, or the underdelivered cliche that your players constantly make jokes about. Hey everyone, my name is Steven. This is Above the Table, where we like to talk about how to better run our games. In this video, we're going to talk about what makes a great villain. We'll cover quirks, motives, minions, and master plans that keep your players hooked. And we'll explore on how to design these antagonists and what kind of things we think about when we're preparing them or running them at the table, and explore how to design villains that even you, the DM, can't wait to see taken down. And if you find this video useful and I'm able to help create a better framework around creating your villains, do me a favor, smash that subscribe button and give the video a like, as it helps the channel out a ton and it's absolutely free. Without further ado, let's get into it. Let's start with backstory and motivations. A compelling villain doesn't just wake up one day and decide to be evil. Well, at least, not usually. Their story needs to have depth, something that makes their actions feel almost inevitable within the context of their own story, even if they're inexcusable. Maybe they were once a hero, someone who stood for justice and honor, but betrayal by those they trusted twisted their worldview. Or perhaps they were some form of visionary, someone with noble intentions who truly believed that they were doing the right thing, only to be led astray by circumstance, obsession, or desperation. Think about what their life looked like before they became a villain, and what specific events pushed them down the path of darkness. This kind of backstory isn't necessarily about creating sympathy. It's about making their choices understandable in some way. When the players can connect the dots between the villain's past and their present actions, it adds a layer of complexity to the story. The villain stops being just an obstacle and becomes a fully formed figure. Someone who maybe even could have been different under different circumstances, or with the right help. This depth creates opportunities for emotional storytelling. The players might even ask questions of themselves like, should we pity this person? Are we justified in stopping them by any means necessary? Or things like, are our goals and actions justifiable, or do they just serve to perpetuate a cycle of violence and revenge? Or do we need to find a path to resolution beyond simply defeating the villain? Take Handsome Jack from Borderlands 2, the video game, for instance. His larger-than-life personality, characterized by a massive ego, sociopathic tendencies, and a morbid sense of humor, are part of what makes him unforgettable. A big part of what sets him apart is his moral complexity. Despite his brutal and often sadistic actions, he brings stability and order to certain parts of the planet of Pandora, revealing a nuanced perspective on morality in a chaotic world. This isn't just the complexity of his evil deeds, but also his vulnerabilities, as Handsome Jack is a deeply flawed individual with a tragic backstory. His human traits like love, betrayal, and weakness make him more relatable. Handsome Jack's hero complex that he also embodies makes him believe that he is the true savior of Pandora, offering a twisted logical rationale for all of his actions. Something else that they do really well with Handsome Jack is his impact extends beyond his actions and his personality. His voice is omnipresent, providing commentary and taunting the player at every turn, turning the player's journey into even more of a personal vendetta. This constant interaction creates a psychological battle where the player is never free from Jack's influence, whether in person or far from his physical presence. His power is not only felt throughout Pandora, but it's also seen and represented by the space station Helios, which serves as a constant reminder of his reach and control, and it looms in the sky as Jack continues to use his influence on the surface. Handsome Jack is a great villain because he makes the players question a little bit of their own morals, forcing them to realize that even the bad guy might be doing what he believes is best for everyone, albeit in his own twisted way. He avoids that typical villain arc we all see too often these days where the character finds redemption or is forgiven for their past actions. Instead, Jack's story arc culminates in his unrepentant and unyielding self-created demise, making his villainy feel complete and final. You also have villains like Strahd from Dungeons & Dragons that make their presence and danger known very early on, establishing an immediate palpable threat instead of lurking in the shadows. Strahd directly interferes with the players from the beginning, haunting their dreams, leaving ominous messages, and even making a physical appearance to the party. This direct early involvement not only builds suspense, but also sets a precedent for the villain's power and omnipresence. It creates a sense of inevitability around their actions and motivations, reminding the players that the threat is real and ever present, not just sleeping somewhere, waiting for them to uncover it. And Strahd's actions are not just confined to his lair. He's actively manipulating the environment, the players' lives, and showcasing his chilling influence over his involvement in the story. This kind of villain keeps the players constantly on edge, blurring the line between safety and danger, and making every choice feel high stakes. What if you want to utilize the unseen? We can think about some of the best horror scenes are the ones where the real fear comes from what you can't see. Your villains should carry some of that same enigmatic quality. Don't reveal everything about them at once. Let their full terror emerge gradually. This creates suspense and keeps your players on edge. For example, look at Thanos in the MCU. His presence was felt long before it was seen, which made his eventual appearance all that more impactful. Let their actions ripple throughout the story and build on that sense of dread and impending danger. And don't be afraid to extend your villains into your players' backstories, directly impacting someone they care about, whether it's a friend, a mentor, or a loved one. The villain either recruiting or harming someone from a player's past adds an intimate layer to this threat, making the player's personal stakes even higher. This deepens the emotional investment and compels players to take actions against this villain, fueling their need for revenge or protection. And remember, don't forget to allow your villains to grow and adapt throughout your game. They should not remain a stagnant boss monster, waiting in some dark room till the day that the players walk in to fight them. Your villains should be reactive to the players' actions throughout the campaign, using their own knowledge and resources available in the game world. They should be continuing to move, continuing to change their plans, continuing to figure out what's next for them. If the players make a clever move or foil one of the villain's plans, the villain should figure out how they might adapt accordingly, finding new strategies or allies or looking for more resources. It's important to not forget, though, the villain's strength should come from their cunning and their adaptability, not from your own personal out-of-game knowledge. You can have villains that are always planning ahead, much like Light Yagami from Death Note. The villain can try to anticipate the player's moves and develop contingency plans. They can operate on a more strategic level, just as your players likely are, reacting to players' decisions, but also trying to keep several steps ahead when they can. This approach ensures the villain remains unpredictable and can continue to be challenging without the need for unfair advantages based on personal knowledge. And don't forget to include a diverse group of minions or henchmen to enhance the villain's presence. These can range all the way from loyal creatures to lesser villains, each with unique roles and personalities. The point is that they should be distinct enough to add memorable challenges that connect back to the villain. And when it fits, it's a good idea to strengthen up some of these minions as mini-bosses and help them build the anticipation for that final confrontation with the main villain. If something that they struggled with before that was a decent challenge is just some crony to the bad guy. They know they're going to have to do more and get stronger and continue to research, gain allies, and do all of those things to be able to even have a chance to move at your villain. We can also utilize the backstories of these underlings, how they came to serve or be enslaved by the villain, and their own personal motives can end up deepening player motivations and provide more insight into the villain's influence and their methods. Threatening or manipulating elements from the player's backgrounds through these minions as well can continue to heighten tension and personal stakes, as mentioned earlier, which all just lends to showing off your villain even more and making their presence felt everywhere. And don't be afraid to draw from existing archetypes in films and books and other media to inspire your villain. We can study these as we prepare to embody the villains either in prep or at the table, thinking about their persona, how they speak, how they move, or even just thinking like they do. And sometimes having multiple villains can even enrich the narrative. This offers players complex choices about who to confront or who to cooperate with. Imagine a faction or group within the story. Perhaps they were once the primary antagonists during the early levels with their own sinister motives and goals, but as the players and them delve deeper into the narrative, they uncover a greater, more dangerous threat that looms over the world. This revelation can shift the dynamic, making former enemies into reluctant allies in the face of this new threat, and now you're left with navigating the tense alliance between the two groups working together, whose members may not even all see eye to eye. And remember, your villain doesn't always have to be a person. Sometimes the most compelling antagonists are abstract concepts or forces, like a catastrophic event, a supernatural ailment, or even a creature from myth. These can be just as impactful, if not even sometimes more so, because they embody something larger and more primal than just a single individual. And well, everyone, that just about wraps up today's video, but I gotta know, what do you think? How do you approach building your villains? Do you lean toward crafting a deeply personal layered antagonist, or do you prefer a classic straightforward villains who are just fun to hate? Let me know. And if you've ever had a moment where your players completely flipped the script on a villain encounter, share it in the comments below and let's keep this conversation going. I've loved all the stories you guys have shared recently. And if you made it this far in this video, give it a like and smack that subscribe button and bell notification, as over 98% of you that are watching are still not subscribed. And join in and follow along for more as we continue to learn how to better run our games. And don't forget to check out my most recent video where I break down the common Game Master myths. Because, well, I released it on Thanksgiving and nobody's really watched it yet. But with that, thanks guys, and we'll see you on the next one.